Hi there, I'm Daniel Sieberg with this Google Plus Politics and Elections Hangout. I'm actually in Mountain View today, and joining me now is John Easley. He is a staff writer at The Hill. John, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
And Lindsey Boerma, who is a staff writer at National Journal and also contributes to CBS News, and she is currently in Washington State, where they are having a caucus tomorrow. Lindsey, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Lindsey, I want to start with you. A lot of folks are paying attention to Super Tuesday coming up, of course, next week, and maybe overlooking the Washington State caucus. How do you think that could affect the Republican race, if at all?
Well, I don't know that they are overlooking it. I covered a Santorum event here last night. I've got a Paul event here in a couple hours. Obviously, both of them have been known to do well in caucus states. That's sort of been their big gold mine. So I think that's why those two are here. But, it's so hard once you get past Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and it's just sort of, boom, 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 one primary after the next. It's so hard to be able to get everywhere. So I think it's not unreasonable that these candidates are out, Gingrich obviously in Georgia in his home state, trying to, make the most of that. And I don't know, right now Santorum is up pretty significantly in Washington State polls. I think that could be exactly what he needs, especially after this Michigan thing, this Michigan decision yesterday, which he's still kind of smarting from, it seemed, yesterday in what I got from him.
Yeah, right. And John, now you've noted that Romney is back on top of most of the national polls that we see coming in. Santorum did lead for a while there. In fact, I think he's the fifth candidate to lead some national polls in the Republican field. Meanwhile, we're hearing from some pundits that perhaps a new candidate could or should enter the race, like perhaps Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. Do you think there's really any time left for a sixth candidate to lead national polls in the Republican field?
Well, I see Lindsey kind of smiling along, and I don't want to guess what she's thinking, but no, I mean, I don't think so. I don't think that someone like any of these rising stars like a Chris Christie or a Bobby Jindal at this point wants to stake all of the how far they've come politically at this late stage in what could be kind of a really tough Republican general election in 2012. So, I mean, I don't see that. We'll see what happens after Super Tuesday. It looks like Romney has picked up a good deal of momentum coming off of the Arizona and Michigan wins. I'd be interested to hear from Lindsey if she sees any momentum from Romney in Washington. I know Santorum was leading in those polls pretty significantly, but I think I saw one out this morning that showed Romney might have even taken the lead there. So Romney's picking up some steam. Super Tuesday is starting to shape up a little bit better for him on the strength of those two wins, I think. So if he can kind of continue this, I think at some point the establishment will kind of start to be okay with it. You'll probably hear some of this talk about a white knight dissipate.
Mm-hmm. Lindsey, do you want to weigh in?
Sure. Well, I think he is actually here right now, or he was yesterday. I can't keep up with where everybody is because they fly around so much. But, obviously he's not going to hurt from this sort of momentum coming in from an Arizona win, a Michigan win. So maybe that has something to do with it. And, Santorum isn't really the news anymore, so maybe that's part of it also. And so I definitely think that Romney could pull off something in Washington State. I think, I might be, I don't fully understand a lot of these caucuses, but I think Washington State is like Maine, where it's non-binding, and the delegate selection is after the straw poll, and in those situations, actually Ron Paul tends to do really well because he has his diehard supporters that stay afterwards. And so I think that's the message Santorum was spreading yesterday was, make sure you stay. This is what matters. Obviously, we just saw in Michigan that this is what matters are the delegates. So I think that's really what Romney's going to have to also enforce if he does want to do well here in Washington State.
Right. I guess even though or in some places it's non-binding, it doesn't stop any candidate from claiming victory over something as a win. John, do you see Rick Santorum staying in the race right through to the convention, or at least past Super Tuesday?
I think so. I think what Rick Santorum needs is a victory in Ohio on Super Tuesday. That's kind of shaping up to be the critical state for him. He really had an opportunity to knock down the front-runner Romney in Michigan in his home state and really make a statement that he's kind of a viable, electable, conservative alternative to Romney, and he wasn't able to do that. He performed great, but he needs to prove that he can win some of these states. And his whole campaign, the thing has been that he can connect with these blue-collar workers in a way that Romney can't. So he's got a real chance to prove that in Ohio on Super Tuesday. And kind of another reason that's shaping up to be a big state for him is that we've seen Romney gains in Washington recently. I think Idaho actually has a decent Mormon population that's going to be turning out for Romney there, and some other states where he's kind of really seen some gains. So Santorum, I think Ohio is kind of the big prize on Super Tuesday, and so if he can make a statement there, I think it'll say something about how legitimate his campaign is. And if he can't, who knows how long he'll stay in? But he's not gonna seem very formidable if he can't win there.
I think we've seen he's leading in. Oh, Lindsey, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just was going to say it's very obvious that Santorum has picked out these states that he wants to campaign in. He's in Ohio. He spent a lot of time in Tennessee. I think he flew to Ohio this morning, and Georgia. And this just sort of goes to show the irrelevance of Newt Gingrich, but Santorum is really touting his second place in Georgia behind Newt Gingrich, where Romney's coming in third. So I think that he has these specific states that it's going to be vital that he wins, after pouring his chips into these, 3-4 states on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, so Rick Santorum polling well in Tennessee and Ohio, Newt Gingrich doing well at this point in Georgia, seems to be a runaway favorite there, and Romney leading in some other states. Lindsey, where does this leave Ron Paul?
Ron Paul, I think in the last debate he said the biggest misconception of me is the one by the media that I can't win. And, he's going around and he's saying I'm second place in terms of firm delegates, and that may be true. I'm not sure exactly where Maine, left it, or there's still some that are being sorted out, and he points that out. But he hasn't won a state yet, and that's very difficult to overcome at this point. But
he draws these big crowds. He got 4,000 people at Michigan State University. He gets a lot of search traffic online. We see it on Google all the time. He gets a big following with his YouTube videos, but it just doesn't translate to the ballot box. How do we explain that?
Well, I was actually in Michigan with him last week or a few days ago. I'm losing track of my days, but huge crowds in the thousands at almost every single one. And I think what you have to remember about this is Ron Paul supporters are dedicated, devoted supporters. There are none who haven't really made up their minds yet, who come to these Ron Paul rallies. And so I think that a lot of times huge turnouts in the event doesn't necessarily mean a huge, showing in the actual election, because you've got these undecideds who then go and they're still making up their minds, and a lot of times they don't go for Ron Paul. You're sort of all or nothing with him, and I think that that's always important to remember.
All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the president. And John, you recently wrote a piece about the Koch brothers' refusal to reveal donors to Americans for Prosperity. You talked about the ongoing volley between groups associated with the Kochs and President Obama's re-election campaign. Can you explain this a little bit, and have you ever seen such an exchange between a major presidential campaign and a well-heeled third-party group like the Koch brothers?
It's a fairly unique situation, I think, and so basically some background on it is the Obama campaign sent out a fundraiser a week or two ago saying that, the Koch brothers are going to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars to unseat the president, and there was two kind of unique allegations in there. One of them was that they're jacking up oil prices, and that was their terminology. And the other is that that they're bankrolling Tea Party extremism. So that kind of initiated this back and forth between the spokesman for Koch Industries kind of replied to that and really debunked the whole jacking up the oil prices. I don't think anyone really thinks that that's necessarily a legitimate allegation, but the bankrolling the Tea Party extremism is something that I think the Obama campaign is kind of is trying to frame the Koch brothers as kind of this giant menacing organization looking to take him out. And I mean, there's no doubt about it that the Americans for Prosperity it was founded by the Koch brothers. It's a conservative economic nonprofit, and whether or not they're deliberately looking to unseat the president, a lot of the policies that they push are in direct conflict with the president's campaign. So it'll be kind of an interesting dynamic going forward to see whether this escalates and whether either side gets any benefit out of it. It's kind of like a boogeyman situation. On the left you have people concerned about the Koch brothers, and on the right it's the the Obama campaign machine. So I think it's really just an attempt to kind of to rally the bases on both sides.
Well, speaking of the president, Lindsey, I want to finish up with you. He's seeing some decent poll numbers these days. The economy, folks are cautiously optimistic, looking at unemployment numbers, the Dow going over 13,000. You're out there on the campaign trail. Do you see the issues changing over time with the candidates responding in a different way? Are they not focusing on the economy so much? Are they really trying to steer it back to social issues? What are you seeing, and how do you think that will change in the weeks and months ahead?
Well, I think certainly the American people have been very clear that they want the issue of this election to be the economy, and that's sort of what Mitt Romney has made his whole shtick is I'm a one issue candidate, and he's proud of it, and he focuses on the economy and jobs, and I think he thinks that's his best bet, going up against Barack Obama. Here you've got Rick Santorum, though, who is being painted as this social, cultural warrior, and he's starting to get really mad about it. He's been saying, I'm not just a social guy. Yeah, I'm known for my family values and my faith, but look at my economic plan. Well, then last night he gave a speech where, we're here in Spokane, Washington. He gave a speech at a rally that almost didn't touch on the economy at all. And he said, there are some people who disagree with me on my on my jobs plan or various aspects of the economy, but they know my faith and they know my values, and that's what's going to resonate. So I think there's a little bit of an inconsistency there, but in order to really go up against Mitt Romney, I think he's going to have to focus in on the economy, and Romney has said that before, and he said, congratulations, Rick Santorum, for finally paying attention to the economy the other day when he gave an economic speech. And I think that that's going to be one of the big, like you mentioned the president, and once, we're starting to narrow down these candidates, and it's going to become more about going up against Barack Obama than going against each other, and they're going to have to start looking at it sort of from that perspective. And right now, it's all about the economy.
All right. Well, it's a big week ahead. I'm sure you'll both be covering it very closely. Lindsey Boerma from the National Journal and CBS News, and John Easley from The Hill. Thank you both so much for hanging out with us. And folks watching, of course, you can follow them on Google+.